Now, having to ask the key questions, right? Asking situational questions, getting great information, those open-ended questions. Maybe you started registering certain problems. You started hearing certain problems that they've actually mentioned that at the same time as your product, your service can solve, and something that maybe that you can actually do better. Now that's great. But again, resist the temptation to automatically saying, hey, we can do better than that agency, right? You want to resist the temptation. You want to do that into this presentation phase. You exhausted all the questions. You already bonded with them. You already got enough information. You understand the current situation, that the problems they're facing with their current agencies they're working with. Now is the time to do the presentation. Now, getting ready for the whole presentation, right? You need to be able to think about two things, right? There might be two things going on in your head. The first one is, now that you heard some of the problems, you now have to incorporate some of those issues into your presentation. So in another word, the customer may have a specific problems with the current agency they're working with. What you want to be able to make sure is as you go through your presentation, that you're actually answering and slowly ticking one thing off, checking it off on how you can do better for the problems that they're facing. Okay? So also you need to be able to incorporate into everything is to the anticipated objections. You must be ready for objections. Customers will have objections. And what I want you to do is to be able to incorporate what we call is objection blocking into your presentation, right? So once again, let's go over with that again. The first things first is you need to tailor your presentation into being able to check off all the little problems that they're facing. So remember, I showed you guys a quick high-end technique, right? That I use a lot. That there's a little bit more questions that we use in the high training, in the advanced training. So I asked the question, currently, what made you make a decision? What are three things that made you make a decision to use the agency you're with right now? Okay. So what that does is you're fact finding. Now before that, so let's go ahead and stack something. I'm going to go a little bit advanced here for you guys. I'm going to give you guys a treat here. So typically what I like to do is that, Mr. Administrator, like when I came in here, the fact that you're seeing me right now, I truly appreciate it. I know that you're already working with an agency, right? Ding, 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 right there. Remember, anticipating the objections before they even say something like, I'm already working with an agency. Guess what? I already brought it up. Because if they bring up the objections, it's more likely and harder for them to be able to be switched off that. So you want to avoid that they actually bring up any objections. As much as possible, you need to bring up the objections before they actually bring it up. Right? Another one that I use a lot is that, typically a lot of administrators, a lot of nursing homes, a lot of skilled nursing facilities that work with us, they want to be able to work with a company that actually services the following insurances. Okay? Right? Because I want in their head, I don't want to be them thinking, and here's the one thing, they may bring up the objections, but there's also what we call the third part, right? The silent objections, the one that they don't actually bring up. Right? So I want to be able to look at every single potential referral source that we target. Remember when we talked about in a previous module on how you need to be able to categorize and prioritize who you want to be able to target. And when you do that, you then need to also make sure that you come up with a basic profile on what type of objections more likely they're going to face. And if you don't know what these objections are, right, you're going to learn that through the process of elimination when you're actually going out there. Now, what we kind of do here in Home Health Success Academy is try to make sure that you avoid having to close a deal, or lose a deal once you already don't look good when you do a meeting, when you do a presentation. So that's what we're here for. We're going to give you guys the most common objections that you're going to face, guaranteed, right? And we're going to give you a way and a training on our advanced modules on how to block those automatically. So, typically a lot of times they're going to say, I'm already working with another agency. Guess what? They can't bring that up because I brought it up for them, right? Those are hard things. Why am I going to bring that up? Well, because I want to bring it up first before they bring the objection up, right? I'm going to bring the payment objection automatically. That will cancel that, right? It allows me to get me more time. And then I'm even going to use a time objection. Like, listen, I know you're busy right now. I'm just asking for 30 seconds of your time. Would there be any other reason why you can't give me 30 seconds, right? So what I'm doing here is I am trying to go past second by second. That's why the people who are not polished, the marketers who are inexperienced, they try to jump into this rapid mode to try to spit everything out so that they can just plug it in. That's just too much information right there. And then you're not, you're not adjusting your presentation to what is really important to them. Okay. So once again, there's two things you need to be able to think about when you are in the presentation area is to be able to make sure that when you ask those questions, tailor your presentation to be able to make sure that it answers those things and that you can check it off, that making sure that your product is what's right for them. Okay, then at the same time is always, right there and then make sure that you be ready to handle any objections, but make sure the best way to do things is that to be able to bring up the objection before they object themselves. Now, if you get to a point where they actually bring up the objection, right, an objection you weren't ready for them to bring up, you must be ready to know how to be able to respond to that. And that's our advanced training that we actually have, is to be able to block that. If they brought up the term, we already are working with another agency, how do you respond to that? If they say, I'm busy right now, how do you answer to that? How would you say, I don't make the decision? How do you answer that? What if they say, for example, I'm busy right now, I don't have time to meet you? How do you answer that? So these are things that you need to be able to understand, that all these objections, just because you're able to block some of them, that you're able to project it, that doesn't mean that you're going to be able to handle all of them. And if they bring it up, you need to be able to know how to instantly answer. Because if you start fumbling, they bring it up and then they see weakness. You have to understand, these referral sources, these guys are sharks. Okay? If they smell blood, they'll bite you. And when they bite you, meaning that they're not going to refer to you. They're going to be like, I got you. Because if you show hesitance, if you're hesitating, that means there's something that you're hiding most of the time, right? Whether you don't know the product enough or really that you don't trust the product. There's so many things that happens. Remember, if you ever came across a salesperson, a marketer, a something, whatever they're trying to do, and they're trying to sell a product to you, and then they hesitate, how would you feel if somebody's trying to sell something to you and you ask a question and you hit them with something and they hesitate? You're gonna be thinking something. So once again, making sure that you bring up the objection before they do it, and also tailoring your presentation to the problems that they're facing with the current agencies that they have actually worked with or currently working